Welcome back to another episode of Streetpreneur Podcast, the podcast for startup companies, aspiring entrepreneurs, and also establishing entrepreneurs and those who are here willing to learn about entrepreneurship. I have a very special guest today. She's the first entrepreneur that I know that has started a card game for financial literacy, basically for everyone, and also including the Black community who we really need it. So she's here today to tell us about her invention, why financial literacy is so important, and she's my very special guest today, and her name is Sequoia Clay. I'd like to welcome you to Streetpreneur Podcast.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. So tell us a little bit about your background, where you're from, and things of that nature.
Yeah, so my background is I'm from Warner Robins, Georgia. My family is from Missouri, though, Carruthersville. If you happen to know the Johnson family reunion, Cedric the Entertainer put us on the map because he's also from Carruthersville, Missouri. Oh, okay. So that's where most of my family's from. So I went to Spelman College and graduated there. So I've been in Atlanta for about 10 years now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And tell us about your job position. I know you were laid off, and that kind of gave you the inspiration and the motivation to start your business. Tell us a little bit about your journey during that particular time.
Yeah, no, I will say, so I started my career when I graduated Spelman in finance because I was like the finance person on campus. I took a lot of classes at Morehouse because Spelman doesn't have a business school. So I started off in finance, and then I matriculated into e-commerce. So I was at Home Depot for a while on online merchandising teams, and I did end up as a sales manager in the e-commerce space, and that's where I was recently laid off. But it wasn't a big problem for me because I started my financial literacy journey early. So I was scammed, unfortunately, my freshman year at Spelman in Atlanta. That was like my welcome to Atlanta moment. But I think with that, everything happens for a reason. So because I gave my Social Security up to someone that should not have gotten it. Right. And what they really did was my taxes. There was a student credit that they were offering $2,000 to parents, mainly that, support your college.
Right.
And I didn't have a job. They did probably my taxes in 5 minutes, but they took most of that $2,000. They gave me $400 back. So when I got scammed, of course, my mom was upset with me, cussed me out, and I felt like, okay, I need to empower myself because I don't know how to be an adult. I wasn't taught this. Like in the Black community, we don't necessarily talk about that stuff. It's typically seen as grown folks' business when it comes to money, credit, all that stuff. So once I learned that, now I was reaching out and I found a community leader, and he was a Q. His fraternity created a curriculum over financial literacy topics, and he wanted to go to different campuses and teach it. So he asked if I wanted to start a club at Spelman. So I started the first financial literacy club at Spelman when I was about 19 years old. So at 19, I was getting a lot of information about just life and what it means to invest early. And I purchased my first property at 23 years old. And from there, I just continued to build up my asset portfolio. So even though I got laid off, it's a blessing for me to have learned so early and started to really invest at a young age, because now I have the comfortability and the privilege to do something like this, entrepreneurial.
Okay. Would you say that was your main factor in starting and creating the card game? Just where did that motivation or that idea that really clicked in your mind that I can do the card game? Was it from your early childhood, or maybe playing Monopoly, or was it playing Uno? What gave you the concept to create that to get the process started, or to make the idea pop in your head, we need to do a game?
Yeah, so I ain't gonna hold you. Finance can be intimidating to people that don't understand, or it can be honestly boring for kids. So I wanted to do something fun, and my family, again, we're from the country. A lot of us just, spend time playing cards. So Black culture-wise, I played Monopoly, Uno, but we play the Black culture card games like Spades, Pity Pat, or Tunk. Some people call it Deuces, all those games. Like when I go home, I got to come home with a stack of ones. That's the type of game we be playing. So I will say that kind of sparked my idea of maybe I can mix this with some of the games that I played growing up. And a lot of kids nowadays don't even know how to play spades. So I did want to kind of incorporate that into it because that's our culture, right? That's what we did with poker cards. We just came up with quick playing strategy games to play.
Okay. And what was your process for creating the card game? Did you have to contact a manufacturer that specializes in creating the cards, or did you go to a local printer? What was that process?
So I'll say the first process I did starting out was I went to the Family Dollar and I got some index cards.
Okay.
And I did a lot of variations of it, playing with my friends, my family. My mom was like my biggest critic, so I knew once I got her approval, then we were good. So I would say I started off doing that. So then the next phase was, okay, I think I'm ready for production, but I don't know necessarily who I should reach out to manufacturing. Do I need to go to China or like out the country, or what do I need to do? So I just chat GPT and figured out who the top manufacturers were for card games. And I did want to match the poker cards very similarly. So I found this manufacturer in Florida called Shuffled Ink.
Okay.
And they were so easy to work with. So it just like went on from there. But I did, of course, call a couple of other manufacturers from that list just to see like, what they had to offer, but I just had the most synergy, and it was just such an easy process working with Shuffled Ink in Florida. Okay.
And what would you say your startup cost was for producing the card game?
Yeah, so it varies by how much you want to produce. Right. So me, I'm a go-getter. I was like, okay, how many do I think I can hustle and sell? So they have like different increments. So as much you order depends on what the price you'll order for each deck.
So you started off with how many deck of cards?
So I started off with 2,000.
That first initial order?
The first initial, 2,000.
2,000, okay. And you sold them for?
And I sell them for $25 retail. Okay. And everything, including the shipping, all in, each deck for me, from the manufacturer, I cannot say it, is about $3.50.
Okay. Okay. It's not bad. Not a bad profit margin.
Yeah, good margins.
At all. Good margins. And so you tried the game out with family and friends first, right?
I did.
And what was their initial response after you got them back from the manufacturer and you actually played the game?
Oh, no. So at first, I wrote on these index cards.
You were doing the concept phase.
Yes. And then once I gave them the real deal.
The real deal card, right.
They were like, oh, this needs to go to Target right now. So that made me really excited because, one, I never created a game before. Yes, I've been in retail space, but I've been in home improvement or like consumer product goods, but not necessarily toys and games. This is technically a game in the game space. So coming up with the concept and all that and just doing it with friends and family, that took like a couple months. But then once I got into production, that only took like 6 weeks. So from that point, I'm like, okay, making my website, making sure everything is ready to go, and then just started selling.
Okay. And give us a brief breakdown of how the game is played.
Yes. So high level, the goal of the game is to have more assets and less or no liabilities. So the liability cards are negative points, and the asset cards are positive points, and they are color separated. So assets are green cards, liabilities are red cards. And you have skip, Uno, like Uno, skip, reverse. But then you also have another card called draw one. Now, in Uno, that means the other player draw. But it's actually a benefit in this game for you to draw because you're trying to draw more green asset cards. Right. And every time you have an opportunity to draw, you can get rid of your red liabilities. And the poker element to it is if you feel confident that you can beat the other opponents, you end the game by revealing your hand. And whoever has the highest points wins. So that's why it's such a simple game. Like I was going around doing trade shows. I went to Chicago recently and did a consumer trade show. And kids as young as 6 years old was playing the game and picking up on it like this. So I'm really excited for it because it's just like an easy way to start those conversations, get them comfortable with those terms.
Okay. And how do you market and advertise the card game?
Yeah, so
what has been working for you?
What's been working? I mean, social media is a beast. When you first start, you got to understand the algorithms, got to understand the SEO, all that thing. So luckily for me, I have a background in e-commerce. So I know the SEO element. And I know the more that you put your information out there, the better it will be. So I started off going on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Pinterest, all the platforms. And every time I post something, I will embed Networthup, I'll embed financial literacy game, et cetera, et cetera. So if you go on Google right now and type financial literacy card game, Networthup is number 2. So it's just about just putting all that content out. But then also traveling. I do a lot of pitch competitions. So if there's a pitch competition in Detroit, I'm there. Like, I'm just going through ChatGPT we like this, we LinkedIn, we twins. Right. And every time there's like an opportunity, I apply, whether it be grants, pitch competitions, any type of accelerator program or incubator networking events, I'll go to those, spread the message around, play the game with people. People are like, I can't play a game in less than a minute. I'm like, let me show you. So that's just like kind of how I've been doing it. And of course, trade shows.
Okay. And I'm sure your financial literacy background played an important role in you creating the concept for the game. How much is that incorporated into the card game?
Oh, a lot. So one example off the bat is trademark. So that's the one thing I would say in developing the game. Once I went to manufacturing, I did reach out to a Morehouse brother that he does patent and trademarks. So that was one thing that is very important, especially if you are trying to develop a game, to have that ownership so someone can't take that idea and sell it themselves. And then also getting a patent for the actual invention. So I'm working on those things. So that's very important. Once you start looking at the terms on the cards, they're essentially balance sheet terms. But whenever someone asks like what celebrity or what athlete, what their net worth is, literally is your assets minus your liabilities. So if anything people learn when they get done playing a game is your net worth is your assets minus your liabilities. So what are those? Yeah. And that's what it explains.
Okay. And what has been your biggest challenge with in creating the card game?
That's a good question. I'll say the biggest challenge for me has been I feel like I can get in my own head as to how far I've come. So I wouldn't say I'm a perfectionist because I know you just got to start. Yeah. You got to start from somewhere. But I am a perfectionist with myself. Like, I feel like I don't do enough. And I'm over here I went to 4 different cities in the last 3 weeks. And I think I could do more. But people are like, you doing good. Just, keep the path. But I think I'm always someone that wants things to start to show and start to happen. But luckily for me, like 2 years ago, I really started my fitness journey. So I know things take time. And it's just like every day I try to at least hit 3 things. Like, even if it's something for me, like just a personal growth or anything like self-love, self-care day, I at least got to knock down 3 tasks every day. So I'll say that's kind of started to make me more, in the process, and then like practicing gratitude, et cetera. But I do get in my head, like, I could be doing something else. Like, I need to be selling something.
And what are some of the most important takeaways that you want people to remember about the game?
The important takeaways, obviously, is you don't want to live like the Joneses. You want to make sure you don't have liabilities. You're trying to build up your assets. Like, that is like the biggest major thing. And then also my slogan now that I'm trying to, kind of do some changes to some of the branding is having fun and getting rich. Because it's not about this. We have one life. We all gonna, see him one day. So while we are here, it's always about like enjoying life, being grateful for everything that we do have, living a life of abundance, because people don't think they have abundance, but we are so blessed to just even be here breathing today. So being able to, have that gratitude, but then also being able to enjoy it, like having fun and getting rich. That sounds fun, right? Versus, okay, let's get serious now. Money is important. Generational wealth, it is, but like you got to have fun too. Okay.
And give us your opinion of the card game you created versus the new digital card games that are played by millennials. I just want to hear your take on it.
That's a great one, because I do want to digitize. That's where we're at now in this day and age. But I will say some games
it's just something about holding that card in your hand and feel it playing.
Yes.
Right, and you're interacting with others live in person versus
like aware with a bot. So, but then also too, I do know some things are just for our quick dopamine, right? So I think even just scrolling, that's just going to be a quick thing for you to say, oh, okay, I feel good. But then when you're done and like 5 hours have gone by, you're like, dang, I don't feel productive. Now I'm back depressed. So I got to do this over again. Right. So I think with my game, it makes you a little bit, it's just like a little extra. Like you're playing, having fun, connecting with people, but then you're also learning a little bit, So I think that's kind of why I created a card game to help with what I think our community especially needs, financial literacy, that wealth gap. ain't gonna close because, compounding interest has already happened, for like the other groups of people that have started, with their families. I think once we start to come together and build our families back again, this card game is a perfect game for families, perfect game for couples to play, start having those conversations. Then once we get together and get back on track, like sky's the limit. Like we can build that wealth.
Yeah. Any advice for any entrepreneur that's thinking about starting their own card game? Just kind of give them some of the pros and cons that they need to do.
Yeah, so patience. And then for, just starting out, at least I would say have five to 10,000. Like once, and I know this is not the most expensive thing, but concept-wise, I think it would be best if you start with like index cards, playing with friends, see what like really works, and like kind of record and document the whole process because that's going to be your social media as well. So I would say focus really on what you truly think will be a great addition to card games that are out. Go to Target, go to Walmart, look at the shelves, see what's already out, go on Amazon, kind of see like, if there's like a value add that you can add that's different, because you don't want to make the same game. Like that's going to defeat the purpose. Okay. But once you get to that point, I will say what I recommend, there are so many different programs. So there's a Target Accelerator program for Black businesses. Walmart is starting their own program. So just reach out and apply to those things. Really is sky's the limit once you start to focus in on whatever industry you want to do. There's always going to be resources and community. You just have to be the one to just go to ChatGPT and say, what are those? And that will start your process.
Okay. What are your future goals for Networthup for 2025? What are you working on as far as expanding the brand? Just tell us what some of those goals are.
Yeah, so definitely expanding the channel. So I'm just selling it now on networthup.com. It's on my shirt.
Yeah, I like it.
And then also expanding to Amazon because that's obviously like the platform people like to shop on. 2-day shipping, can't beat that. And then working on developing another game. So one of the things that I'm experimenting with now is a game about credit, because understanding those terms and just being able to see, okay, I know if I do this, it's going to mess up my credit, or this is how I can build my credit. So that is something I'm working on. So hopefully getting another game in the mix, which will be great for just the overall brand of having fun and getting rich.
Any advice that you can leave the African American community about financial literacy?
The earlier you start, the better. And there's something about the compounding interest after 7 years. So you're not going to make money fast. That's just not how it works. So once you start, again, going back to what you're thankful for, what you're grateful for now, and in your present, like you have all your limbs, you have all your, you have a right mind, all those things are things that you need to start really fixating your mindset, changing it, not to a scarcity, like I only have $10 left, what do I do? No, I am blessed to have this $10 to make a difference today. So like having a change of mindset for sure, but then also once you kind of get, to the point where you've saved $1,000 in your savings account, then you can move on to those next levels. So I recommend people read books, like of course, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That's one of the big ones. And just finding those resources on what type of asset portfolio you want. But make sure you diversify, because keeping everything in crypto, I know that is like now a really great place to start, but that's going to take time. You can't just pull that money out and say, okay, I need to go shopping. Right. That's something that's going to develop over time, over some years. So while you start thinking about that, what other things can you grow over some years? Real estate has always been my favorite asset class. So I'll say looking into buying land or just being creative in real estate. What does that look like?
Okay. We want to thank you for coming out and sharing with us your card game. How does it work? And it's definitely I feel like this interview is going to inspire a lot of people. It's also a great Christmas gift, as you mentioned, and a great gift overall. So I wish you much success.
Thank you.
Please give them your contact information. How can they reach out to you? And what is the platform they can go to purchase the card game?
Yeah, they can purchase on my website. That's www.networthup.com. Networth is spelled NETWORTHUP.com. And you can also follow me all on my platforms, Instagram, TikTok, all of them, Twitter, X, or whatever they call it now, is at Networthup.
All right, there you have it. And I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come to Streetpreneur Podcast, and we wish you much success. I want to thank everybody. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Also, go on the audio platforms and listen to us on Apple and Spotify podcasts, platforms near you. And stay tuned next week for another exciting episode right here on Streetpreneur Podcast.